Welcome to season 3, episode 11 of the Subway Conversation Chat. My name is Jamie Malloy, and I'm here to talk some New York Yankees and New York Mets baseball with my co-host Joe Dalio. So, without any further hesitation, here's Joe. Hey, Joe, how you doing? I just saw you backstage.
I just saw you backstage as well, and I told you I'm on a sports high these days, not because of anything my baseball team is doing, but a different sport that I've been hyping up the last few weeks here. The New York Knicks, officially the 2025-26 NBA champions, and I could not be happier. We talking backstage. It's been a long time since one of my favorite teams won a major championship. I mean, it's been 40 years for the Mets, over 40 for the Islanders. The Bills here, hopefully, get that going soon. But to have a major professional team that's my favorite in that sport to win, it's been a very long time. Other minor things, I like Atlanta United and MLS, and Syracuse won the tournament 20 plus years ago. But this one is definitely more special than one that we've had in a long time. So kind of taking away the pain of the baseball team here, but kind of taking my attention away from them too. But so kudos to the New York Knicks as we start our baseball podcast. But I had to mention the basketball team that is our current NBA champions.
And thank you, Bills, for opening up a new stadium again. As we just said, when the Knicks last time they won their championship, they were opening up the old Highmark Stadium, and now they open up the new one, and the Knicks win their first title.
That's it. First title in 53 years. So,
yeah.
Maybe that title and the assistance that the Bills provided there will rub off on them. Who knows? We'll find out in the next few months here.
Because it's rubbing on the Yankees, but it's not so for the Mets.
Right. Yeah, not so much. But, the Mets are like a seesaw, like we also discussed, and we'll certainly talk about that further on the show here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Joe, speaking of those seesaw Mets, would you like to start us off with some Mets news and what's going on the playground for them? I would say the Diamond baseball field, but since they're a seesaw, what's going on their playground?
Yeah, their swings aren't going up so much, and they're sliding down the standings here. So, and sometimes, I feel like they're just hanging on to monkey bars here. But I'm trying to think of all the playground references I can in a matter of seconds here. So. A few bits of news, the Mets a little bit excited, and I say a little bit, and I'll explain why. Kodai Senga activated off the IL. He's had back issues. That's the headline news of the week, and he's actually starting tonight's game. Now, the reason my excitement was a little tempered is because he was struggling before he went on the IL and was getting hit kind of hard. I had a bad feeling about this going to a place like Cincinnati, where it's a hitter's park, and, coming back from injury here, I wasn't so sure how he was going to do. And he's struggling so far. 2 innings pitched so far. The Mets are down 4-1 as we speak here. And he's given up 4 earned runs, a couple of home runs already, a couple of walks that led to a 3-run home run that the Reds had already hit. And again, one of the easier parks to hit home runs, and it's pretty warm there. So, the ball's going to be traveling. So I was a little bit worried about how he was going to do. And he is struggling as I expected. So we shall see. Hopefully he can get back to the form that he was earlier in the season and the Kodai Senga that we know. Now, some bad news here. And last week I was talking about Christian Scott, how he had so much potential, and it was so good to see him back after the promise that he showed. And he was on the injured list and coming back and having a couple of great starts. Well, he had a rough start last week. And if that wasn't enough, he was placed on the 15-day IL with what they call a right hip impingement. Now, they're hoping this is a short-term absence, maybe about 3 weeks, and he can get back to throwing and get back to the form that he was earlier, where he had those great starts. But that's a little disheartening, for Mets fans and for the pitching staff as well. So other things too, there's really no news on some of these guys. Now, Jorge Polanco had been battling like a wrist situation. He also was having like Achilles issues. And now he's been officially moved from the 15-day IL to the 60-day injured list. So it's going to be a while for him. Francisco Lindor, Luis Robert, no expected return dates. They're thinking maybe for Lindor the end of this month or into next month. But I mean, this has been ongoing and it just keeps getting delayed, it seems like. And the more it keeps getting delayed, of course, the more concerns there are. They're saying at least June 26th that he's probably going to be out. So other guys too, Ronnie Mauricio has broken thumb. He's out till the end of June. Louis Robert, at least after the All-Star break, if not longer. Now, Tyrone Taylor, he's expected to come back maybe later this week or early next week. Not that he was hitting the ball very well, but just to add a little bit depth in the outfield in case anybody else gets hurt here. Clay Holmes has that leg issue, and now he's had to some delays in his rehab. So now they're talking about August, him coming back and, just battling those issues, in the bullpen and in the starting rotation, in the starting lineup. So, not to make excuses with that. I mean, there's just the Mets. I think even if they had the full lineup here with these guys, not sure how much different things would be going. So we'll talk about some of the guys that are contributing in a little bit. That's pretty much the injury news and transaction news that the Mets have going on. So, Jamie, what's happening with the Yankees?
Well, thank you very much for that, Joe. And hopefully by next week, we'll be talking about how they're going up the seesaw now instead of down. Hopefully you're probably anticipating that as being a Mets fan. So anyway, yeah,
is swinging up.
Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about the Yankees injury report, and guess what? They're swinging a lot. There's a lot of good news and it's swinging up here in terms of the injuries. So we're going to start out with catcher Austin Wells, who had cervical headaches. He had an MRI on his neck on June 8th that came back negative and is feeling better. And he is likely to play some minor league rehab games this week. And I think he's starting this Saturday, and his expected return is possibly June. Second, this one's kind of trending down a little bit. We have outfielder Trent Grisham, or young Reggie Jackson lookalike, with the mustache and but with a right hamstring strain. He obtained the injury at June 12th while running the bases at Toronto. Will likely have imaging testing done this week. No, Jason Dominguez was called up from AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre as his replacement on the Yankees active roster, but he's actually available on the bench tonight as he's recovering from a tooth infection. He got his tooth pulled out, so it kept him out of the starting lineup. But he's available on the bench. He should be back full, ready to go tomorrow. Dominguez, and I love Dominguez. He's very happy, always has a smile on his face no matter what happens. Even with his tooth being pulled, he's still smiling.
Yeah, and he's a gamer too. I mean, it's like pulling teeth trying to get him out of that lineup.
Oh, I get it. Anyway. Okay, number 3, we have left-handed pitcher Max Fried. He is dealing with a left elbow bone bruise. Aaron Boone reported that MRI showed the healing on June 12th. Fried had been throwing at 120 feet and has been feeling fine. Expected return possibly July. Now we're going to talk about kid Cam Schlittler maintain the lead in the AL Cy Young race. The Massachusetts Missile, as I gave him that nickname, continues to orbit into a new galaxy. With 11 weeks of the MLB season already in the books, Schlittler has the whole shot to win the AL Cy Young, but there's a pack of other veteran stallions behind him looking to pass him in the end.
Mhm.
Even though horse racing's over, I bring that up.
No, horse racing's never over.
Yeah. The 24-year-old is first in the AL in ERA 1.82 with
Wow.
a 7-3 record and 96 strikeouts in 15 starts. A disciple at the increasingly rising 3 fastball high velocity altar, the 6'6" Schlittler creates an intimidating presence on the mound, both in height and heat.
And how old is this guy?
24.
Yeah.
He'll be
Incredible.
25 later in the year. Anyway, the combination has been frightening as opposing batters have only hit 178. Additionally, add it all up, and Schlittler, despite a lackluster June 2nd start against the Guardians, still is the clear front runner to take home the AL Cy Young Award already in only his first full season as an MLB pitcher for the Yankees.
That's crazy.
Amazing. But it's not without competition, though. So let's take a look at some of the other top AL pitchers who are chasing Schlittler for the AL Cy Young Award. Number one, we're going to start out with our buddy Rich Richardson's favorite pitcher, besides Paul Skeens, Jacob deGrom from the Rangers, and you used to like him because he was on the Mets.
Yeah, and it's great to see him pitching like Jacob deGrom again.
Yep. deGrom ranks top 10 in wins, ERA, and opponent batting average while earning the largest difference between his strikeout, carrying the largest difference between his strikeout and walk rates amongst AL pitchers. The 37-year-old veteran Stuff has aged like fine wine, ranking in the 88th percentile in fastball velocity this season. And while his heater is still the veteran's go-to pitch, it's also been his slider, which leads baseball in stat cases and value. That has been deGrom's best swing and miss offering, particularly when tunneled with his four-seamer. deGrom has a good chance to become just the 8th pitcher to win the Cy Young Award in both leagues. Number 2, we have Gavin Williams of the Cleveland Guardians. Williams has been the ace for the AL Central leading Guardians in 2026. The 26-year-old leads the AL in wins, innings pitched, and strikeouts while ranking 12th in ERA. He's been at his best against the MLB's best. On April 1st, he had 7 scoreless innings and 10 strikeouts against the Dodgers of all teams. And that's not an April Fool's joke. That actually happened on April 1st. 7 2/3 scoreless innings against the Rays with 9 strikeouts on April 29th and 5 1/3 innings with 3 earned runs and 6 strikeouts against the Yankees on June 3rd. Number 3, we have Davis Martin of the Chicago White Sox. Who that?
The division leading Chicago White Sox?
Oh, wait a minute. I forgot about that. They were in second, but yep.
They're close.
They're playing the Yankees right now. Anyway, Martin has been one of baseball's pleasant surprises on one of baseball's pleasant stories with the White Sox. Now, as Joe mentioned, the division leading Chicago White Sox. The 29-year-old underwent Tommy John surgery in 2023 and dealt with a forearm injury last season, and is also an example of a pitching success story in light of health setbacks, which is a rarity in the age of high velocity. Martin doesn't throw hard, but he doesn't have to, as he boasts 6 quality pitches, which are 3 fastballs, your 4-seamer, your 2-seam sinker, and your lukewarm cutter, delivered from the same arm slot. So he throws it all in one motion with his arm.
Okay.
and sports similar enough velocities to keep within the deception. Okay, throw in a capable curveball and slider, and Martin ranks in the 68th percentile or better in chase, whiff, and strikeout rates. One of just 4 pitchers in the AL to be in the top 10 in both strikeout and ground ball rate. Martin is very much in the running for this award. So, Joe, how amazing is it that Cam Schlittler is already leading the AL Cy Young Award at 24 years old, going against some of these veteran hurlers, especially a guy like Jacob deGrom, a decorated pitcher like him in his career.
Well, yeah, you just said he's 24 years old, and I find that incredible that he's in the thick of this race, probably a favorite right now if the season was to end today, right? So, I mean, again, guys like deGrom, certainly could keep going, and then you just, as a fan, you got to hope that he stays healthy. I mean, that's a big if these days with pitchers like him. But if he could stay healthy the rest of this season and keep pitching like he is, there's no reason he can't get this, this award. Now, I was talking about the White Sox. I mean, how incredible is that they were historically the worst team in the history of baseball 2 years ago. And now here they are. I just checked. They're tied with the Indians. Yes, I did say Indians. They're tied with the Indians for first place in the Central almost halfway through this season here. So you got to give them all kinds of credit, and pitchers like the one you mentioned here certainly helping getting them there. So it's going to be an interesting race as time goes on. And there's no reason to believe, minus health issues, that Schlittler can't keep this going and end up getting this reward when all is said and done. So I find it very incredible.
And Joe, I want to take the time to pause the show for a little bit to say that we have a comment, and it's from MDE 723. That's Michael Edwards from Jeremy's Driving to the Top. He's a big Yankee guy, but he likes Detroit, everything else. And he says, great show. Thank you, boys. Go Yanks. They are rigging tonight against a hot Chicago White Sox pitcher, even without Judge and Grisham. Wow, it is, Michael. And it's not just a hot Chicago White Sox pitcher, a hot Chicago White Sox team that made the trade a couple years ago to get rid of Garrett Crochet for all these young guys, and now they look like geniuses for doing that.
Right. Yeah, they're playing well in all aspects of the game. Again, 2 years after being the worst team in baseball history.
Mm-hmm. Well, I told you, Joe, because like I said, they spent all that time collecting these young prospects, and now it's kind of like the Sabres now. It's finally coming to fruition,
right?
Where the Sabres were collecting all this young talent, and it looks like now with the new GM, it's coming into place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, same with the White Sox, and it is a great point.
Mm-hmm. Love you, Michael. You're awesome. Thanks for the comment. Anyway, and what do you think of Davis Martin for the White Sox even being a candidate for this award? We just talked about the White Sox, but what do you think of even a pitcher on the White Sox on a tied for first division team after being the worst team in baseball? He's even on this list.
Yeah, I wasn't that familiar with him. Now, do you know how old he is?
29. I read it in the
all right. So he's a little older. And
he's more of an old school type of pitcher. He's more like a Greg Maddux, where he's more about, efficiency. Like he doesn't have to throw hard, but he's accurate. But go ahead.
Okay. And again, not looking at the stats, how many years has he been pitching in MLB so far? Do you know? If not, that's no problem. I'm just curious.
I don't have it with me.
Yeah, I didn't know if this guy's been pitching well for a few years, if he's just kind of hitting his stride now. I'm going to have to look into that. But again, just leaders like that are just bringing this team out of the depths and bringing them right into the thick of this pennant race. And again, it's tied for first place halfway through.
Here's the funny thing. As soon as I'm giving him praise, he's pitching tonight against the Yankees, and the Yankees are beating them 9-1.
They're smacking them all over the park, right?
Because Michael just put another one. He said, I believe in Davis Martin, but after tonight, I don't think he's trustworthy. He has been beaten around more than a dollar store blow up punch dummy. Now keep in mind, Joe, he may make some off color, triggering comments, but if you have a brain, they're funny as heck. And he said Davis Martin just figured it out after this year. He was nothing prior.
Okay. Thank you for that, because like I said, I'm not familiar with him, and as good as he's been and as good as he is, I guess he's still got some growing to do here after tonight's performance and the Yankees. Mm-hmm. Again, great comment. And thanks for putting smiles on our faces with that.
And what happens, Joe, when you put a smile on your face, what does vitamin C say? You make the world a better place.
That's anyway,
right. Anyway, let's move on. Let me get my train of thought back. I'm very excited here. Anyway, how about, speaking of Paul Goldschmidt, Schlittler and Goldie help Yanks topple the Blue Jays. Do they have a chip on their shoulders? Oh, and Michael just said I'm only off color for those that have only a black and white television. I am always a supporter and fan of the forehead. They have a joke now, Joe. Because remember how I get really, really close to the camera sometimes, and you can see my forehead. So Jeremy and Michael always call me forehead, and like Adam will call me forehead too. It's funny, but
that's right.
I knew you were going to come out with that forehead comment.
No, maybe he was talking about
our viewers don't know about this, but what?
No, that's all right. That's good stuff.
Okay. Anyway, if you're Cam Schlittler's Yankees teammates, then you better have your chip on your shoulder, as Schlittler has one himself. This should be the mentality, especially when they face the Toronto Blue Jays, because after losing 4-1 in a battle-tested AL Division S series last season, Cam Schlittler pitched this past Saturday like he had it, delivering 7 gutsy innings. Mm-hmm. Michael Edwards said Jamie's forehead has more collateral value in the real estate market than a plot of land in North Dakota about to strike oil. People call me Michael, they're funny. Anyway, Paul Goldschmidt adapted his clutch gene once again. Oh, so he's basically going to be this year's DJ Moore, the clutch gene.
There you go.
Hitting a game-winning 2-run home run in the top of the ninth. And when the Blue Jays made that third out in the bottom of the ninth, the Yankees won 3-1. And we have a quote here. The way I think it turned out, I think it gets a little chippy, Schlittler said. I think there's a lot of mutual respect between both sides. The fans clash more than the players do. That's common nowadays. It used to be both. Back in the Yankees, Red Sox, it was both the players and the fans. Now it's just the fans. The players show a little more decor now than the fans do, I think. But
agreed.
Anyway, they got a great team. They play us well when we're here. Last Saturday's win only was the Yankees' second win in 11 times at Rogers Center, dating back to the beginning of 2025. The difference was Goldschmidt, who has taken on a larger role than envisioned when he signed a $4 million contract to return in January. Goldschmidt's 9th homer of the season came with Cody Bellinger on base and marked the first home run given up this year by Varland, who entered Saturday with a .49 ERA. And we have another quote. I'm definitely not up there guessing. I was just trying to be ready to hit, Goldschmidt said. And he quote, I joked in my head before that at bat. He hasn't given up a run in forever. Maybe today will be the day. Fortunately, I was able to get him. And my grandpa used to always say, law of average.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Yankee fan. Anyway, Jason Dominguez, despite being just 23, calls the 38-year-old veteran Young Goldie. He's king of New York. Young Goldie. Jason Dominguez calls me Young Goldie. Kind of like young Kobe that the song Tyga used to sing.
Yeah.
Rap. And manager Aaron Boone sees Goldschmidt batting .285 with an .889 OPS as continuing to be a formidable presence in the clubhouse as well as the lineup. And we have a quote. He has been coming up huge, Boone said. Just when you think some righties hold him down a little bit, he comes up with a big at bat. We needed every bit of it. He continues to just be massively productive right in the middle of our order. So, Joe, what do you think of Goldschmidt getting better with age like Bordeaux wine?
Right. I mean, we've been through this before, and he just keeps consistently hitting and contributing to this lineup. And that, in addition to the veteran leadership and positive presence in the locker room that he provides, definitely a valuable player on this team. And age doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Age is but a number.
That's it.
Yep. And what do you think of Cam Schlittler's bringing a chip on your shoulder mentality to try to reverse their fortunes this season after being eliminated by the Blue Jays in the playoffs last season?
Yeah, that's what you want to see from a 24-year-old like that, right? You know, he's got the stuff on the field, and he's got it up in his big forehead too, right? He's got the mental capacity and the fight capacity here, and again, you love to see that from a 24-year-old.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyway, let's turn over back over to you, Joe. One more time. We're gonna celebrate for some more Mets news. Or in Espanol, un vez más.
Yeah. Yes, me gusta. Except no me gusta el jugar de los Mets. Okay, because again, they're kind of on one of those downswings, and again, just I don't know, playing uninspired a little bit here. Now, the 3-4 in the past 7 days, outscored 41-23. Now, that's partially a mirage. I mean, they were smashed 12-0 last night. So that game was a little bit of an outlier. But if you look at the past 7 days, they're outscored 6-3. Again, you're not going to score or you're not going to get a lot of wins scoring 3 runs a game, giving up 6 a game, even if you take that 12 runs out of there. And even let's say they lose 6-0 last night, still you're talking 5-3 an average score here. So, certainly not what you want to see. And, people get on my case here sometimes that know about this podcast. They're like, you're admitting on a podcast that for a team that you represent, that you hardly watch this team. That's not a good look. And I can understand that. But at part of it, I think it shows that I'm pretty smart, because I'm choosing not to watch a bunch of heartless, overpaid, overgrown boys. And I'm watching high quality sports that are on, like, my basketball team winning a championship and a World Cup tournament going on. So again, when all of that is over, yes, I'll probably be watching more of these games, and perhaps, they'll be on an upswing and in the thick of this race. And, even through all this and all the garbage that we've seen in the first half of the season, as I mentioned, last couple of weeks, they're not out of this thing, and they're one hot streak from getting right back into it. So that's the one positive they have going. Now, on the hitting side of things, last couple of weeks, I've been mentioning Bo Bichette and how he had those initial struggles. But even lately, he had been hitting the ball really hard, but not getting the results that you would want. And it was getting a little frustrating. But that certainly manifested this week, as Bichette had 3 home runs and 8 RBIs in the last 7 games, OPS of 1265. So finally, we talk about that law of regression and law of averages. It definitely went in Bo's favor. Now, I'm careful when I say that, because a lot of those hard hit percentages and StatCast things that I was looking at saying, hey, Bo's going to get out of this and he's going to hit a hot streak, the expected stats are kind of going the other way. So I keep an eye out for that. And we'll see now if the law of averages goes the other way for Bo, because he's not hitting the ball as hard, even though he's getting some results still. Be careful with that, because it's kind of going the other way. And, some distraction there about how he's already saying that he's not, that he's going to opt out of his contract and stuff, that he has that choice. And I wouldn't be surprised. I didn't think it was a good match for him here anyway. I thought Toronto was like a perfect place for him. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, but it would still be nice to see him make contributions. And and make a difference for this team, a positive difference. Now, somebody that's doing that, again, a lot of people criticize him because of what he's getting paid and his lack of leadership. But Juan Soto continues his consistent hitting and especially getting on base. He had 2 home runs, 4 RBIs this week, a 1402 OPS. And that's, again, partially because of the high on base percentage. He's walking a lot, but also, again, getting some extra base hits and home runs as well. He's doing that consistently. And certainly the hitting stats are good. The hard hit stats are great. The barrel percentages, all of those StatCast stats there show that is most likely going to continue. Now, 4 other players had a home run this week. Other things we talk about now, Brett Baty, we talk about the seesaw here and how Brett Baty has a great week one week and a horrible week another week, and it seems to bounce around. He's had a couple of struggle weeks. Now, it's kind of a mixed bag there. He's hitting the ball hard. He maxed out at almost 110 exit velocity recently. But the problem with him, what they're saying is the launch angle is very low. And so, yes, he's hitting the ball hard, but he's hitting too many ground balls and hard ground balls, which is actually capping his slugging output, despite, again, a very high, almost 39% hard hit rate recently over the last week or so. So, you could look at that one way and say, hey, the guy's hitting the ball hard and maybe that averages out for him. But, instead of hard line drives or deep drives, he's hitting the ball on the ground a lot. So hopefully they could fix that and get him, moving in the right direction, that way. So now let's talk about some pitching, some positives. It seems a little bit more negative here. Now, Sean Manaea got off to a rough start after missing time last year. He was in the bullpen and struggling there. But he started pitching quite well, and for the combination of that reason and the fact that, again, some guys now on the IL or being ineffective, he's in the starting rotation now and had a very solid start recently. 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, and 6 strikeouts in those 6 innings pitched, a .67 whip. So he's not getting guys on base, and certainly encouraging, and hopefully he can continue to go in that direction. Freddie Peralta had a solid start. He's been a little inconsistent. 5 innings pitched this week, 4 hits, 1 earned run. Little concerning, though, only 2 strikeouts. So not fooling anybody. Now, that could have been, the other team that he was going against, or just, again, really not fooling people. David Peterson, not so much. 9 earned runs in 6 2/3 innings pitched. So he continues to struggle. You look at the back end of the bullpen and guys, with that StatCast stuff and filthy stuff, as people say. Devin Williams, I've been saying it for weeks on end here. He's been consistently great all season. 2 saves this week, a .86 whip, 4 strikeouts in those, or in 2 and a third innings. So certainly Devin Williams getting it done. The middle part of the bullpen, some positives and negatives, a little inconsistent. I know in recent years, it seems like the last 2 or 3 seasons, they started out really well and a couple of times were the best bullpen in the league for at this point of the season. And then all of a sudden went on tailspins and really struggled later from overuse or from people figuring them out or whatever. So keep an eye on that. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. But some of that consistency that they had in the beginning of the season, again, not the problem that the Mets have been having throughout the season, that has changed a little bit. And, some of these guys, too, they're saying they're struggling with location, especially some of the newer guys. But StatCast tracking is showing too many pitches over the heart of the plate, leading to a spike in opponent barrel percentages, as well. So they're leaving pitches in good hittable spots, and that's what's causing those problems.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to tell you, Michael, being another comment, the Mets are a capital MESS Mets, all caps, and
Yeah.
need to seriously consider an overhaul bigger than Kim Kardashian's plastic surgery process.
Well, I don't think I could have said it that creatively, but it's funny because that was on my mind to say this week. Is the fact that again, this team lacks heart, and again, are there some encouraging signs? Yes, but there's just too much, you know, blah. And I was thinking the same thing. Again, not that creatively. I guess I certainly can't take credit for comments like that. But you know, do I care if they suck for the next 5 years? If they can make the right moves, hopefully not 5 years, but again, let's blow it up for a season or two, and get some of these guys, these overpaid guys, out of here, and just start it and
Get some prospects back into the system. I think, to be honest with you, I think that's what they've had. They've had to do that, I think, ever since signing Soto with the big contract. Because think about it, they were paying Pete Alonso all that money.
Right.
And as good as Pete Alonso was, he was getting old, and they didn't really have a new type of core that they could build around Soto. But I think this is finally the year where they realize we let Alonso go. We go on the seesaw. But if we stay, seesaw enough to get some prospects into this system, to help build around Soto, that could help, for next year, a year or two. Maybe we need to do pull a Chicago, not as bad as the White Sox, but, a lesser version of that for the Mets. That could help them.
Yeah, I think so, because, I think of other successful times in their history. That's what they did, in the 80s when they got those World Series teams. That's what they did. And they brought in some veteran guys, too. They had Keith Hernandez and Gary Carter and some big free agent signings. But a lot of those guys that came in, Gooden, Darling, they got as prospects and trades and stuff. And look what they did. And, even in the late 90s and some of the young players that they had there, when they had some down years in the early to mid 90s. So I would not mind if they did that at all. And they played their most inspiring baseball this year when they called up all the youngsters, when AJ Ewing and people like that came up, and, Carson Bench got going and that. So go with that youth movement. Let them grow together. Let them learn together. Again, a couple of the guys they brought up weren't quite ready to be here yet, and that's fine. Give them some more time in the system. But they get that system or get that confidence back in the minor leagues. Then you come back and start anew, and you got some fire here, and then you're going to have some veteran leadership, like Soto and Lindor if he ever wakes up, and that kind of thing. So don't go with these overpaid veterans that crumble as soon as you blow on them. Go with the youth movement. That'll add some heart. I say it all the time on this show. I repeat myself, and I've said it 9,000 times, and I'll say it 9,000 more. I'll watch a team that plays with heart, even if they lose every game, okay? Rather than a mediocre one or a bad one that plays like this. Nobody wants to watch this. So, yeah, I agree. Blow it up, start it up, and do it the right way, and let this team grow together with some veterans in the process, and go from there. But the thing that stinks with this management is nobody's got the guts to do anything. The owner doesn't have the guts to make moves. The GM doesn't know what he's doing. The manager is heartless. That they need to make a change there too, to make these things happen. And it's just not happening right now, and it's maddening. But we'll see some of these young pitchers too that they got that they're struggling, and like I said, leaving some fat pitches for players to hit, but that's how they learn, and they're going to get better with more experience here. So
I think they are going to make moves at the deadline. I think they are going to be sellers as much as they weren't expected to be. I think
Yeah.
they will try to get more prospects into the system.
But are they smart enough to do that? That's my only concern. They should be, they should be sellers, but I don't even know if they're smart enough to do that. And there's guys that don't want to be here. Peralta doesn't want to be here. Bichette doesn't want to be here already. These are guys that just got here, and I don't blame them. If you want the truth, yes, you play out what you came here for, and they paid a lot of money for you, and so you better produce and do your best and show some heart. But they don't want to be here, and they won't be, and they could be gone as soon as, the trade deadline or before. But, we'll see. I get the feelings Lindor doesn't even want to be here, the way he plays. And I hate to say that, and it's only based on this year, because a couple of years ago, all of a sudden he was the MVP we thought he was going to be. And yes, I know he's hurt this year, but again, the whole season, even before he got hurt, he was playing like he didn't want to be here. So it's just, like you said, a mess with a capital MESS. And, they play like a bunch of ASSESs too, sometimes. So, it is just bad. Now they're currently 32-40. And last week I said, it was a little bit of encouraging because I like these expected stats. And, they had the Mets only at about a game under 500 as far as that expected and Pythagorean record and everything, which kind of shows some optimism that, they're better than their record shows. But now after these last performances, that's kind of gone the other way. They're 32-40 in their actual record. And their expected record is 33-39. So really, that's saying that they're exactly where they should be. And, they kind of went the other way. Again, the one encouraging thing is they're still only 5.5 out of the wild card. So things can happen and they can go on hot streaks, and some of these other teams, can go on cold streaks. But, everybody, as I look at those expected stats, that they're pretty much everybody is where they should be. I talked about the Tampa Bay Rays and the Yankees division and how, they seem like frauds. And I think the fall is coming. Interesting, the two teams that are the most, I guess, better than expected as far as that's concerned. One of them you won't like, Jamie, the Red Sox. According to that information, they're better than their record shows, and you might see them, move up the standings a little bit. And here's a surprising one because they're already amazing. The Los Angeles Dodgers are the other team that is, as they're saying, is much better than their record. And so that's scary. But it doesn't surprise me because how many times do we see the Dodgers struggle at this time of year, maybe, and give other teams a chance, and then July, August, September, they're unbeatable. So that tells me that we're going to see that happen again. But
this is but like I said, Joe, they're going for one more because think about it. This is the last time they're ever going to be able to, construct a roster like this because, of the lockout and then, the hard cap coming, I think. So,
right. Yeah. When baseball returns in 2028, we're going to see a different situation. So,
right. But if you think about it, look at every other team. If you think about it, the Mets and the Yankees and the Pirates, the funny thing is they were already playing like that. Mm-hmm. But I guess, they must have knew something ahead of time that we didn't, because if you think about it, the rosters that the Yankees are putting out now without Judge, the Mets could possibly have, if they sell for more prospects, the White Sox, what they have, that's going to be the normal probably in 2028 is having a bunch of young guys on your team like that with maybe one superstar because of the
right.
cap.
And it should be, and teams have learned to do that. That's one of the big arguments is that, well, look at these teams like Tampa and look at, some of the Brewers and teams like that are consistently good and, don't have a big payroll and that, we don't need a cap. But, this is an argument for a different time. I think baseball does. And I think it would definitely even the playing field and just make the sport so much better. I don't think it's as drastic as the NHL because their season-long lockout saved the sport. I mean, people, lifelong fans like myself, had stopped watching for a few years because of how bad it was. And baseball's not in that state because baseball, I think, is very exciting these days. So the sport is in a good situation, and the games are competitive and fun to watch, especially because they're moving along now and not taking 8 hours for each game. But
you know what Adam says all the time, though, Joe, right? The 94 lockout, he said that really killed. He said baseball was basically dead, when it first came back from the 94 lockout. And then they said the Sammy Sosa and the Mark McGwire. And it's like Adam always said, say what you want about those guys being blacklisted because they got juiced up. Yeah. And he said, but that steroid there, he said that actually brought baseball back from the dead of the 94 lockout, as much as people don't want to admit that.
Yeah, it's a great point, and you can't disagree with it, in my opinion. I mean, that's I just
think it's funny that they get blacklisted when at the time it saved the game,
Right. They're like the martyrs, I guess you could say. And they still shouldn't have done what they done, and I think deserved the punishment. But you're right. They did really resurrect the game at that point. But yeah, so like I said, it's a conversation for a different time, I think. But the Mets teams are learning to do it the right way. Even look at the Orioles a few years ago. They're struggling now, and they've had some situations, but they won a division doing it the right way. That's how the Astros became the dynasty or semi-dynasty that they were. They had all those losing seasons and did things, from the ground up like that and really suffered through, but ultimately, figured it out and again, won a couple of championships and were dominant for almost a decade. So I'm surprised teams haven't figured this out. It's just the teams that can, the Dodgers can at this point. The Mets think they can, but the difference is the Dodgers managed it right. The Mets didn't. So anyway, somehow the Mets are still only 5.5 out of a wild card. For the rest of this week, they got the game against the Reds. Again, they were losing 4-1 last I checked. But now some tough teams because they're going to Philadelphia for the weekend, and the Phillies are playing well. And then a 4-game series next week at home against the Cubs. So the Cubs maybe not playing up to par, but some of their players starting to get hot. I've been watching them a little bit. And some of their players, as in, Pete Crow Armstrong and guys like that, and are starting to heat up a little bit. So the Mets are going to have their hands full and in the middle of this race and are really going to have to show something, because if they don't, these teams are just going to run them right off the field. And so it's a nice crossroads for the Mets. And again, we'll see if there's any indication that things are going to change.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, thank you for those Mets news. So now we're going to talk about what's wrong with Giancarlo Stanton. I think that's a rhetorical question, Joe.
Right. He can't be hurt, can he?
Anyway, do the Mets need an overhaul? What isn't wrong with number 27 on the Yankees? Rhetorical question on top of a rhetorical question. The 36-year-old is starting to age like milk that inspired on April 15th, 1993. Only guess what? He's older than the milk because he was born in 1989. All jokes aside, the Yankees fan base really shouldn't be rubbing salt in the wound. I'm actually serious about this, though, as Aaron Judge is out until hopefully August. And Stanton has been he has been trying to work hard. It's just, I think Father Time's calling on him, and he had to come back to impress his manager Aaron Boone, because Aaron Boone every year it's like I always say to get rid of Boone, but like Aaron Boone loves him for some reason, even though like he can't see it, but Yankee fans can see he can't run that well anymore. But
right.
Anyway, Stanton was placed on the IL with a hurt calf in April, but Boone said Stanton will have to miss in additional time. This is music to the ears of all the young baby Yankee Bomber prospects players, and also good news for Judge too. Well, Boone doesn't see it, the Yankees fans do, as Stanton really can't run that fast anymore, and he's just wasting a roster spot for Judge or for any of the other younger prospects. And I think Judge is ready to be a full-time DH. I don't think you risk putting him back on the field anymore because he's not getting any younger. I think he can handle just, being a DH coming up to bat and let Jones, Dominguez, or let some of the younger guys stay out on the field now because I think it's their turn to shine out in the field.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's how he keeps getting hurt, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Joe, what do you think of this? Again, another unfortunate setback for Scranton. I mean, for Stanton, not Scranton. Sorry.
Yeah, it's sad to see, but like you said, father time catching up to him. This is par for the course for his whole career, pretty much, or especially later in his career. It just keeps happening, and I think it's only going to continue as age catches up to him. So I think his time is limited here. And again, great career, great contributions, but I don't see him being able to contribute much more to this team, unfortunately.
Mm-mm. And Joe, and I know Yankee fans really could see this coming, but to be fair, how could they not see this coming? I mean, the manager couldn't see it coming, but we did.
Yeah, everybody else did. That's what I don't understand. Boone is pretty smart. Excuse me, but yeah, how could he not see this coming? Because everybody else did.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, as they say on Yes, with the prospects, let's take a look at Down on the Farm. We're going to start out with AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders. And of course, I know I do this every week, Joe, and people are going to get boring me talking about the board, sick of talking me this name. But we're going to talk about the shortstop, George Lombard Jr.
We're never going to get bored of that.
Right. He went 1 for 3 with a double, a run, 2 walks, and a stolen base. With all the injuries on the Yanks right now, Lombard Jr.'s time in the MLB may be coming very soon. And it could happen maybe in a July or a September call-up once we finally hopefully when we get rid of Anthony Volpe at the deadline.
Right.
And then he may get a shot to play behind Caballero, which means Caden Kent could finally move up to Double-A, and I'm going to be talking about him later.
Okay.
If they don't get rid of him at the deadline, Caden Kent. Left fielder Oswaldo Cabrera. He went 1 for 4 with 1 RBI and 1 strikeout. The sad thing with him is he's been waiting his turn, but I don't even know if he's, with all the injuries, I don't even know if he's going to probably get called up, and I hope they don't trade him at the deadline because he's been working really hard. His story is just incredible to come off that ACL injury and still doing what he's doing in the minors. Is just a remarkable story, and you got to have a lot of heart to do that.
Right.
Maybe he could go to the Mets and show him what heart's all about.
Somebody's got to do it.
Because he's the definition of heart.
Mm-hmm.
And soul. Anyway, now we're going to move on to the Double-A Somerset Patriots. We have left fielder Jackson Castillo. Castillo went 2 for 5 with 1 home run, 2 RBIs, a run, a strikeout, but hit a go-ahead homer in the second and a game-winning single in the fourth. Right fielder, we have Garrett, my favorite, Martian Martin. Martin was 1 for 2 with a double, a run, 2 walks, and 2 stolen bases. And then we have starting pitcher Kyle, you can drive my car. He pitched 6 1/3 innings, which is actually rare in the minors. That's like going 8 or 9 in the majors now.
Right.
3 runs, 7 hits, 2 walks, but had 4 strikeouts and gave up 1 home run, but he got the win. And now we have High A Hudson Valley Renegades. Speaking of, we're going to talk about shortstop Caden Kent. The son of Jen Kent continues to play well with the Renegades, going 2 for 4 with a double, a run, 1 walk, and a strikeout. So, Joe, how come it is still taking a while for the Yanks to call up Lombard Jr.?
Good question. I don't have all the background knowledge as far as, if they see something in him that they want to give some time to develop, or if, again, there's some traffic in front of guys that they want to try with them first. It could be a whole bunch of reasons. I mean, if I'm him, though, I just keep, doing what you're doing and just keep proving yourself and keep trying to improve your game. And eventually that opportunity is going to come. So there could be several different reasons as to why it's not happening maybe as fast as he or people would like. But again, keep that heart, that positive attitude that you talk about there and that he's demonstrating and show some positive growth and good things are going to happen for you.
Mm-hmm. Hey, what if he, I don't want to do this, but what if he comes to the Mets, George Lombard Jr.?
It's funny because as you're describing some of these players, even somebody like Kent or him, that crossed my mind. Now you said he's a shortstop, right? And so the Mets have a particular...
Both of them are. Kent's a shortstop, and so is George Lombard Jr.
Yeah.
But so George Lombard Jr. can also play second or third. He could play 3 positions in the outfield. You can move him around.
Okay. Because the Mets have a particular guy at shortstop that's still going to be there for a while. Now, it's funny because, there's another comment here. He's saying Beatty and Vientos.
It's Michael again.
Michael, yeah. They're in need of a new location, more than a radioactive electrical line in a neighborhood full of school-age children. Move them while they have more value, like now. All right. More value than stale Tops bubble gum. So another classic comment there. But again, you got a point. And it's a good one. They're not growing like they should. And now is the time probably to get the highest amount of value for them. So they're good young players. And I hate to see probably what would happen is that they would excel somewhere else. But again, get some good value for them that you can now before, they get to a point where their careers never take off and then you don't get anything. So I agree with that. I as much as I would hate to see them go, I think it's time for a change for them too. So blow the whole thing up. Like I said, I wouldn't mind seeing these guys, people like them. Again, even Lindor. I mean, I hate to keep picking on him, and I know he's got a 50-year contract or whatever it is. But, if the guy doesn't want to be here and he keeps acting like he doesn't want to be here, then get him out of here too. I don't know. But like I said, I'm at that point where anybody, minus Soto, of course, because he's still, new. This is only his second year and he's actually producing. I mean, again, he lacks the heart sometimes too, but, at least he's doing what he's supposed to be doing on the field. And not too many other guys can say that. So it's funny, though, that you said that, Jamie. I thought of it across my mind as you're describing some of these guys. It's like, I wouldn't mind having them on the Mets. I don't know if the Yankees would make that trade with them, but funny that you say that because it crossed my mind.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, and how about Caden Kent continuing to look pretty decent? Even though he's staying in high A, he's getting quality at bats. And eventually he may earn them enough to get promoted to double A.
Yeah, it's going to take a little more time to get higher up, just simply because of where he is right now. But, same thing. He's got the pedigree, obviously, being Jeff Kent's son. And, I think he's going to get to the point where, at some point it easily could be a household name. So same thing though that would happen with Lombard. You keep growing, you keep learning, you keep playing hard, keep a positive mindset, and eventually things are going to manifest the right way.
And I think it's amazing that they put him like I said, he didn't even he went right to high A after just being drafted. That means he didn't even have to play rookie ball or single A. What do you think of that? He went right to high A after just being drafted last year.
Yeah, I think that's a sign of his talent level too. And again, things might start moving quickly if he really grows and produces at a rapid pace here. So again, good info here that you got me curious. I'm not a Yankees fan, but you got me curious, and I see these names every once in a while and take a peek, and so you got my interest. You got me interested in them too, and to see how they can progress, and I'm rooting for them.
Yep. Well, it looks like we come to the end of our show. So, Joe, where can we find you in the social media world on Tuesday, June 16th, 2026? Or as my uncle texted me, it's 061626.
061626. Wow. And then, last week, I had a student whose birthday was on June 7th. Of course, you know what that is, right?
6-7.
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, we tracked all these dates here, but yeah, this is a good one too. But anyway, you could find me, Joe Dell Sports. I probably have 100 tweets of Knicks championships, not exaggeration, of course, but I found one that I liked, and then I found another that I liked, and then I overloaded the Joe Dell Sports Twitter page with some Knicks championship picks and comments and stuff. But hey, I'm a happy camper, like I said, and I'm going to savor that for a while. But you can find my takes there and on this show every Tuesday. And now as my schedule opens up here and my eyes open up a little bit from not being tired anymore, I can join some other shows on the network too.
And then you guys can follow me, yours truly, at Bill's Chat 1, at Bill's Mafia Chat, and also at Jamie Malloy, the unbiased journalist at DJ Dog Tags on X, Buffalo Down, and thefortball.com, where I write about all sports. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and ring the bell for all notifications. For more content on Driving to the Top Productions, please visit us on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, X, wherever you get your podcasts. For Joe Dallio, I'm Jamie Malloy, and we'll see you next week on the Subway Conversation Chat, only on Driving to the Top Productions. Good night, everybody.
Have a great week.